Patrick Mahomes has like the arm talent, but he's not as athletic and he's not as much of a tank that Josh Allen is. And then Josh Allen probably has a bigger arm than Patrick Mahomes too. But you just have all of these moments that come at the most inopportune time, and the fact that they also contaminate any opponent that they play too, where you mentioned the Texans losing 24 and the Chiefs go on to lose to the Bengals and blow a huge lead, and then the Bengals end up going on to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then also this team has only beaten one team. They're 1-6 against teams with 13 or more wins in the postseason, and the only quarterback that he's beaten that's like a legit MVP level quarterback was the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. That was twice, and when the Ravens lost to them last year, that was the Mark Andrews game where Mark Andrews just flat out dropped it. And then the first one, Lamar was kind of early on in his career, but it's like, how much worse can it get?
Yeah, not only that, you know that they have the most playoff appearances of any team to not win a championship in the NFL. They have 29 playoff appearances, and they've never won a Super Bowl. It's by far the most, even more than the Vikings, who have also made it 4 times.
And that
They've
goes
had
with
all these
Josh
eras.
Allen's stat of winning 8 playoff games and being the only quarterback to not make a Super Bowl either.
Yeah, and not only that, like, you've had the OJ era, which resulted in 1 playoff win. Jim Kelly makes it 4 times, doesn't win a single Super Bowl. Josh Allen hasn't even made a Super Bowl at this point. 13 seconds was the difference between you and an AFC title game. You blow that, which is devastating. That's the shortest remaining time ever for a team to lose a playoff game while leading in NFL history. We got to witness that live, thank God. But he's been so good in the playoffs at certain points. This game was atrocious, but I just don't know if they can do it. I just think they have to blow it up. I think Josh Allen has to leave, and maybe then he wins a Super Bowl. But if you're in Buffalo, it's not going to happen.
And who'd you rather have, James Cook or Jonathan Stewart?
I think I'd rather have James Cook.
Would you rather have Khalil Shakir or Ted Ginn Jr.?
I think I'd rather have Khalil Shakir.
And then would you rather have old Greg Olson or Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, both in their prime?
I'd take the 2 of them over the old Greg Olson for sure.
Yeah, so it's like you
And that's
also
Cam
look
Newton.
at that, like Cam Newton made a Super Bowl where that year he won the MVP in 2015 was probably one of the most remarkable individual performances I've ever seen. And Josh Allen has a better arm. He has a better completion percentage than Cam Newton did, but even Cam Newton dragged the Carolina Panthers all the way to a Super Bowl. He hasn't been as efficient as far as getting to Super Bowls. He hasn't really had as much help as Josh Allen has had either, though. And the fact that he was able to drag that Carolina Panthers all the way to the Super Bowl, and then did you know Josh Allen is the first player to have 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles in a playoff game, and the last player to do that was Carson Palmer in that Carolina Panthers conference championship game when Carson Palmer had 6 turnovers.
Oh my God. That's just awful. Yeah. It just keeps piling up for them, for them all around. They had a 17-year playoff drought. They had multiple win and in failures where they could have made it. They don't. They've lost to Mahomes multiple times. They've also, the fact that they've beaten Mahomes pretty much every time in the regular season at the same time, adding insult to injury, because I believe he's 5-5 against Mahomes entirely,
Yeah.
but he's only beat him in the regular season. He has not beat him in the postseason once, and each game has been by a field goal in most cases.
Yeah, Mahomes beat Josh Allen the first time they played each other in the regular season. Josh Allen has won every game since, and that was did you have like the sound on for this game? Like, could you hear anything Tony Romo was saying?
Well, yeah,
Like
it was
Tony
awful.
Romo
I
kept
hated it.
saying, like, well, there's no Lamar Jackson, there's no Joe Burrow, and there's no Patrick Mahomes, but, well, Jim, he did beat those teams in the regular season, so you really can't say it's an easy cakewalk to the Super Bowl, where they were already trying to come up with excuses for the Bills to not if they won the Super Bowl, that, oh, well, it wasn't against Burrow, Lamar, or Patrick Mahomes. So they're trying to make excuses for those guys not being in the way in the playoffs, where he's like, well, he did beat those guys in the regular season, Jim. So you can't really say it's an easy pass because he beat them and he's the reason why some of them aren't playing in the playoffs right now. But also, Joe Burrow was hurt for most of the season and he didn't have a defense. Lamar Jackson's Ravens just fired their coach because they quit on John Harbaugh. And then the Chiefs had one of the worst teams that they have ever had. One of the worst teams that they have ever had. So I get he beat them in the regular season, but the actual argument is that he can't beat them in the playoffs. And also, who's to say that if he played the Patriots or the Texans that he would have won, with the fact that he's only beat one 13-win team, and that was this year versus Trevor Lawrence, of all people, in Jacksonville. And then at the same time, he is 0-3 versus the Texans. And the worst game he had all season, Josh Allen had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions on Thursday Night Football versus the Houston Texans. Then that was the worst game that he had all year. And then people were like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to go out there and beat the Texans. And then everyone also picked the Texans to beat the New England Patriots. Pretty much everyone also picked the Buffalo Bills to beat the Denver Broncos as well.
Yeah, they just had Buffalo immediately in the Super Bowl. And you and I both had our doubts. Like, I like James Cook and I like Josh Allen, but their defense is bad. And then when it comes down to it, when they needed him, they had Josh Allen. He had multiple drives, whether it was end of the regular half or into overtime, where they blew it ultimately. Whether it was the interception, whether it was other drives at the end of the fourth quarter, like they just didn't deliver, and that's what ultimately cost them. Ultimately,
Yeah, and the most glaring stat out of all of these for Josh Allen, you go down the list, he's 1-6 versus 13-win teams in the playoffs. You know, he has lost to the Chiefs 4 straight times, which is more than any player has lost to the same opponent consecutively in the playoffs. But the most glaring stat of all is he's 0-7 in his career in overtime games. 0-7. And the fact that at the end of the Chiefs game last year, he had the ball in his hands to do something with it, he didn't do it. He could have come up with a big drive at the end of that game last year. He could have done it, but he's 0 in his career in overtime, and they literally changed the rules because of the 13-second game, and Buffalo cried so much. Sean McDermott was on his soapbox giving his civil rights speech after that catch that shouldn't have been an interception and shouldn't have been a catch now. And I was like, okay, we literally changed the rules so Buffalo had a better chance to get to the Super Bowl with Josh Allen after, and it still hasn't changed anything. So what rule are we going to change now because Josh Allen is 0-7 in overtime? If he throws an interception, does it count for the other team where we're just going to ban Josh Allen being able to throw interceptions? Is that what we're going to do to have to get him over the hump and into the Super Bowl now?
yeah, they're gonna have to do something. But Josh Allen, his game just abysmal. A lot of changes to be done. Who do you think is their coach next year? Now that they fired Sean McDermott, is there anybody that fits them? It feels to me like Brian Daboll is going to be in the mix there, like we mentioned before. But anybody that shouts out to you that might fix their issues in the future?
Brian Daboll would be the second funniest option, and I think that would be hilarious if Brian Daboll would be there because Josh Allen had his probably sloppiest, most turnover heavy years under Brian Daboll. And keep in mind that Josh Allen since 2020 leads the league in turnovers as well, if you factor in the regular season. But having Brian Daboll, I think that would be just an absolute disaster because I think Josh Allen is better when you focus on the run game. But I think Clint Kubiak has to be the guy. If you fire Sean McDermott, you have to go young, then you have to go offensive-minded head coach. We're trying to find our Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur type coach for Josh Allen. And I think that is going to be Clint Kubiak, especially what he has done with Sam Darnold this year, where a lot of people were doubting that Sam Darnold could keep that momentum going from Minnesota going to Seattle. And then he turned Jackson Smith and Jigba into the best wide receiver this year. This has been the best I've ever seen Zach Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker look this season, and Seattle's offense has taken a step forward under him. So I think if you're looking at who do we want to be our next head coach, we want to go with the young, best offensive guy we can get it. And if you can't, you go out there and get Bill Belichick, because this was something I floated around. I think it was 2 years ago when I was saying that they should fire Sean McDermott because they had another flame out in the playoffs versus the Kansas City Chiefs that we picked again. Who would have thought? And then I was like, you know what would be funny? Bill Belichick leaves the Patriots and then with as bitter as he's been with the stories coming out where he's not letting any Patriots personnel go down to Chapel Hill to scout in North Carolina, I think it would be funny if Bill Belichick was the Bills' next head coach. Bill on the
It would be
Bills.
it would be hilarious. It would make sense that Buffalo would make a move like that. And also, it would be awful because Bill Belichick, 73 years old, if we're going to bully the Raiders with what they did with Pete Carroll, I mean, we saw what he did with University of North Carolina. It was not pretty there, but it would make a lot of sense for Buffalo to go after that. It's a desperate move. So I would be rooting for that to happen. I think that'd be funny. But that being said, I think Clint Kubiak's a great hire there. It's a shame Kevin Stefanski took his job with Atlanta because I think Kevin Stefanski would have been a good fit there for him, but that passes through. If they want to stick with defense, I think Brian Flores could be a fine hire there, but I'm rooting for Bill Belichick. That would be hilarious just for the NFL to see.
Yeah, I don't think you can go with defense. Like, you've seen what it's been like with the defensive head coach. If you want someone though who will just go out there and get in Josh Allen's face and kind of bully him into being like a franchise quarterback and take it to the next level, I think Robert Saleh, if you're going to go defense, would be a really good guy. The fact that he took the Jets to multiple 7-win seasons when you look at that roster, and with how they immediately flamed out under Aaron Glenn, then as soon as he got fired, that entire organization fell apart. Like, honestly, I think Robert Saleh would be a solid option for the Bills.
I would agree. I think Robert Saleh is a great head coach. I'm curious to see if he takes any of these head coaching jobs now that their season is over for the 49ers. I think he'd be a great fit for Buffalo there. I'm also curious if they'd make a move for someone like AJ Brown, who looks like he could be out the door in Philly. Do they make that swing and go for AJ Brown? That's another thing I'm curious about. I think
Yeah,
they should.
I don't think so. I think you still have to go at the draft because we've seen Josh Allen can't handle someone with a personality like Stephon Diggs. And as soon as Stephon Diggs left, Josh Allen did the whole like, oh wow, it's nice that we don't have one guy and they're demanding the ball and everyone's just happy that they get the ball when they get it. It's like that kind of turned me off with Josh Allen where he couldn't really handle the Stephon Diggs situation, where the fact that Ben Roethlisberger was able to deal with that many personalities and hang on as long as he did with Antonio Brown is a miracle.
100%. With all the talent that they had, I would agree. There's a lot of things that Buffalo has to figure out moving forward. And it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason. That being said, though, uh, congrats to the Broncos. Moving on, they played great, but I want to talk about the Seahawks Niners game real quick because of all the games that we had, this game was definitely the biggest blowout by far.